I truly, truly, truly believe, and you don't have to believe this with me, but that everything happens for a reason. And you won't always see that reason straight away. Ask yourself the difficult questions and be really, really, really honest with yourself. Like, go so deep that you just know, okay, this is why I have it. Honestly, if there's one thing I've learned this year, it's that discipline is your best friend. A lot of us probably believe that we need to work really, really hard in order to earn money because you believe that this is how it's supposed to be. And in most cases, people will never believe they've worked hard enough. And that's why a lot of people struggle. Like, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because believe me, there is always gonna be something happening in your life that is gonna feel uncomfortable. A couple of years ago, I had the goal for that year to run a half marathon. I was living in a different country and I was gonna run that half marathon. See a lot of people cheering on the sidelines, and they're there for the people who are running and helping them to get to the finish line. And I had no one. As a business owner, you cannot expect your employees to work just as much as you do as the owner of your business. I cannot wait to see what 2024 has in I don't know the word for it. Hey there, welcome back to another episode on the Stories to Remember podcast. Thank you so much for tuning in with me today. I cannot believe we're only a couple of days removed from a new year. 2024 is just around the corner, and as probably most of you do, I always use December as a month to kind of reflect on the year and the things that have happened, and at the same time look forward to 2024 and create my goals and set my goals and build my strategy so that I start off the year getting clear or having very clear what the year is going to look like for me and what I'm going to focus on. And while I was going through the reflection over the last couple of weeks, I came up to a couple of things that have really been integral for me this year in the first 9 months of kind of building my business. Like, it's been 9 months that I've been on this journey in this business as such. And there have been a lot of things that I've learned, a lot of personal challenges that I've faced that had nothing to do with my business, but maybe has impacted my business in some ways. And then, like any other business owner, I think building a business, I've mentioned it in one of my episodes, kind of means that first year is about 10 years of therapy. There are so many layers, limiting beliefs, stories that you might bump into that you either didn't know you were having, that led to procrastinations, or you maybe wanting to quit or give up and just go back to something that's more comfortable. And I've experienced these things myself. I've seen it with other entrepreneurs, and due to that, I've come up to some lessons that I want to share with you today, and hopefully they can be helpful for you in your journey next year in 2024, and be a guiding light to make sure that whenever you do come up to certain obstacles, you kind of come back in here, tune in, and get your groove back on as such and be inspired. So without further ado, I will officially kick off with the 2023 things that I've learned. Starting with number one, perfection doesn't exist. I think a lot of us in life, no matter which area that is, if that's our body, or if that's a certain routine, or if that's the career, or how we look, the clothes that we're wearing, honestly, it doesn't matter what it is. We always try to make things perfect. And we even hold ourselves back from taking certain actions or doing certain things because we have a belief that it doesn't look or seem perfect just yet. And what I've come to learn is that perfect is just a word. We're all different people. We all have a different background. We all look different. We all think different. And therefore, what we perceive as perfect is different for everyone else, which ultimately means that you can think something might be perfect, but if you would ask one of your best friends, they might actually say, no, I don't think that looks perfect, or I don't like how that looks, or I I don't agree with you on that. And that has made me realize that no matter what we do, we all have different tastes, we all have different perceptions, and therefore perfect simply doesn't exist because it's something that is merely a perception of someone's personal taste as such. So once you really start to believe that, it also means that you can put things out no matter if they seem imperfect for you, because someone else, the person that might perceive it on the or receive it on the other end, might actually think it's perfect. So stop holding yourself back for the simple reason of you thinking it's not perfect enough, and just get out there and do your thing. The second point, I've listed it all down here, so I will track along nicely. The second point is when you want to quit, which in every area that you maybe want to transform in, there will be a moment where you want to give up and quit. So I've seen it with people on their health journey. I've seen it with people in their business journey. There will be a moment where you're just so done and you're kind of throwing in the towel. And maybe you've already done that. The thing is, it's fine if you throw in the towel just for a day, but pick it back up again, or even for a week, or even for a month, but pick it back up again. And the reason why I'm saying this is that most of the time we want to quit because we have either a belief system that something is not working, or we haven't seen the outcome of it in our external world yet, or we're just so tired of doing something that we either don't enjoy doing or hasn't given us the results that we had hoped it would give us within that time frame. And ultimately, these are all external elements as such that come from an internal misalignment. And when you start to notice that, you can then realize that it's simply by you changing your thought process and your belief systems around it and the heaviness of the expectation that you have on it. If you've released that and just rest for a moment, take a break, tell yourself, like, I'm just gonna do something else for a couple of days or not focus on this at all, and I will come back in a couple of days, you will notice that you most likely have the feeling internally by yourself that you want to come back to it. And once you have that, you know it was simply there because you're putting too much pressure and too much of intention on it. You were trying to control it too much as such. So instead of quitting, allow yourself to take a step back. Allow yourself to breathe a little bit for however long you need. And then when it starts bubbling up internally again, which most likely will happen too if it's really meant for you, then pick up that towel again and just start small, putting one foot in front of the other. And I think what I just mentioned is that if it's really meant for you, you will start feeling that internal feeling of, okay, I want to do this again, or I want to pick it back up again because I know somewhere deep down that I can do this, then it's really meant for you as well. If that doesn't come up and if you're continuously just feeling like it's not right, then maybe it's also not right. And then it's a good sign that you quit. Then I would say choose a different direction. It's okay to quit when it's really not meant to be yours, but first try out just the rest and take a step back from it. So that's that. Number 3 is take inspirations from others, but don't let it create or force the paths that you're taking. And what I mean with this is that a lot of times we see someone else's journey. We see where other people are at this point in their life. Like they have the money, or they have the car, the relationship, the house, the whatever. They seem to have it all. And we want to build, or we want to have what they have too. And therefore, we're going to follow everything that they're doing. We're going to listen to what they have to say about how we have to live our life to be able to get what they're having. And although there's nothing wrong with taking inspiration and learning from what they're doing, it's different when you actually start to recreate their life and make it yours. You're not meant to walk the same path as them. You have your own paths to follow. And when you really start focusing on that, on your own path, that's where success actually comes from. Most successful people in this world, and successful is, again, it's a perception, like what is successful, right? But like in your terms, the ones that look in your terms successful, and that could be financially successful, or maybe because they have it all, or maybe because they're living a very peaceful life as well, right? Where they don't really care about others. That's exactly the thing. They don't really care about what anyone else does. They just focus on them and what they need to do and what feels aligned to them. So let that be your guide too, that the way for you to build the life that in your eyes feels successful and is your dream ultimately is by forcing your own path and don't care about what anyone else out there is doing. And that also kind of comes back into business a lot. I think we're living in a world where people are very much focused on what other people in the same industry are doing, and that can limit them from doing their own things and setting them apart from others. So they ultimately becoming more of a copycat, which hasn't or doesn't have the right energetic alignment behind it. So it will impact your business one way or another. People will feel it if it's not honestly you or authentically you. And that's going to be much more of a focus for a lot of people as well, because we're living in a world where everything is so open and there is a social media that can hop on, and we have hundreds of different products within the same kind of product type these days. And people will start to make decisions and buy things based on the authentic alignment. If they feel it's really authentic and they feel that that person has created something out of really a belief system that this is right for them and that this is what they were meant to create, or that this is what they truly believe can transform people, people will act on that and buy that service or product quicker than people who are simply copying what someone else has done because they believe it's a good market or a good product to sell. So if you're in the business sphere, then focus on your own path, focus on your authenticity. Then this is a big one that I spoke about not too long ago. Discipline is your best friend. I honestly, if there's one thing I've learned this year, is that discipline is your best friend. And I personally have always been quite disciplined, but this year it's literally turned the game for me. And it wasn't until just a couple of months ago that I realized that this was my best friend. And let me explain that to you a little bit. Most of the time we think discipline will restrict us in certain ways. But ultimately, if you're disciplined enough, that's where the freedom starts to happen. Because if you know you need to move and you actually are disciplined enough to move every day, you will start to feel better because you know that's what's going to happen. So you can either say, okay, I'm not going to be disciplined and I'm not going to walk if I don't fancy it, and therefore I will feel a little less good. Fine, that's your choice, but it's going to impact other areas of your life. And that's the same with business. Like, you need to have the discipline to show up and to do the work. And someone was saying the other day, like, doing the work is not by simply sitting and envisioning doing the work or reading about doing the work or listening about doing the work. No, doing the work is by actually taking action and doing it. And that can look different for everyone, but the important part of what I'm saying here is that you need to actively keep doing things. And it doesn't always mean that we need to hustle. That's not what I'm saying either. It's the difference, right? You can do things and be in alignment and focus on that one thing, or you can be all over the place and trying to do 10 things at once. That's hustling. And that's not what I'm meaning either. Like, have the focus to, or be disciplined to have a focus point as such, but keep doing that one thing. Even when you don't want to do it because you know it's making you better, or it's improving your skill, or it's going to help you on the long term, or it's going to make you feel better and more energetic. Like, that's the discipline. Doing the things even when you don't want to do them because you know it's going to help you in some way. And make that your best friend. I promise you, it's a game changer when you start doing that. Now, on that note, I think there is an element that fits with this is when something is new to you, focus on building it as a habit first. So focus on the discipline to make it a habit. And the more you make it a habit, the easier it will get to stay disciplined in it as well. But also, once you've created something as a habit, that you can then optimize. And this is where a lot of people get it wrong. They step into something new and they straight away want to do the perfect thing again. Again, comes back to point one. So they want to optimize it to make it look as good as possible straight from the beginning, but then they're not consistent and disciplined enough with it, which then also affects the results. So you might as well just first start to create a habit out of it. And then once it becomes more natural to you to automatically do it each day, or how often you need to do it, then you can start optimizing it and making it better. You will build the foundation by making a habit, and then you will build on top of that by optimizing it and improving it and increase or whatever that looks like. The next point is, if you're like me and you're an all or nothing kind of person, then learn to drop the nothing and find a good middle ground. I always had a bit of a belief system, like I either give it my all or I'm not giving it anything. And what I've come to learn is that why? Why would I either want to give everything or not give anything? There is also a middle ground. Like, I might as well just give it my 5% if it's going to help me. Like, 5% is very close to nothing, but it's still something, right? And even that 5% can already make the difference. If every time you want to do nothing, you do 5%, that can change the game over time. So try to drop the nothing part of it, give it your all, or just give it as much as you can give it. So if that's only 5%, then give that 5%. If that's only 50%, then give it that 50%. Because ultimately, if you can only give 5% and give 5%, that is also 100%. And it's always more than nothing. So drop the nothing part. The next one is one I'm so passionate about, and I can make tons of episodes around this topic alone because it's a very broad one, but it's self-awareness. Self-awareness is the ultimate key, including the understanding of what you tell and believe yourself. So it's having the awareness and also really understanding the awareness of it. That is going to change the game for you. And if you're new on any transformational journey, start there. Start with self-awareness. And self-awareness has ultimately elements in every single part of your life. It's around what type of stories or belief systems you have in your relationships, how your body is reacting on certain foods, how your body is reacting during your menstrual cycle, and what type of thoughts come up during that menstrual cycle. When do you need to take a rest because it needs it? When do you like feel your best if you work out in the morning or in the afternoon or in the evening? Like, start to create the self-awareness, because then you can create a life that is really designed based on what you believe, but also based on what's best for you. And a really important part here is what you believe is what's going to be created into your external life. And I think we need to emphasize this so much more. If there's one thing that I have seen happening in my personal life this year, is that my belief systems are actually what's running me. And I've been working on my belief systems for the last 6 years in learning the self-awareness and changing my belief systems so that they feel more aligned to me and they're more my truth. But it's a long-term game to play. Like, there's always a new belief that pops up that you need to dismantle as such and that you need to work through. So it's not something that you just do once and that's it. It's something that comes back over and over again and in different areas. And once you think you've mastered one, another one pops up, or something happens and you realize you haven't mastered the one that you thought you had. So your belief systems are the key of awareness that you need to have, and then hone in on the other elements that will come to you as well. So if there's something happening in your external world that you do not like, ask yourself, what type of belief do you have that might be creating that life? And let me give you an example. I think a lot of us have faced this if it comes to money. A lot of us probably believe that we need to work really, really hard in order to earn money, or due to social media, we have created this belief system that the only way of starting to earn money is if we have a big audience on social media, or if we're everywhere on every social media platform. And again, these are belief systems that you're having. I have gotten clients, true friends or true clients, without having to ever market myself to them. And that just shows that you can earn money even if you don't market yourself. And by telling yourself that you can only earn money if you market yourself, you will ultimately only earn money when you market yourself, because that's the belief system you're having. So you're not allowing anything else to happen. And that's the same for if you only believe you can earn money when you work really, really hard, then you don't allow the external world to prove you differently, because you believe that this is how it's supposed to be. And in most cases, people will never believe they've worked hard enough. And that's why a lot of people struggle. So they will think they need to work more hours, they need to do more consistently until they burn themselves out, and that's it. They need to quit. So find the belief systems that you're having, ask yourself, and this goes on to another point, ask yourself the difficult questions and be really, really, really honest with yourself. What is it that I believe? Why do I believe this? Keep asking yourself the reason why, until you can't ask yourself it anymore. Like, go so deep that you just know, okay, this is why I have it. And I think the honesty piece is also realizing when you're maybe lying to yourself, because that's another part. We tend to lie to ourselves. We're not really honest enough with ourselves. So an example there is I could say, okay, I have a belief system that I do not need to market myself in order to earn money. And I can say that to myself, but do I really believe it is a different story. And that is where honesty comes in. Like, I can tell I'm doing it, but then if money doesn't come in, I need to be honest with myself and I need to ask myself, am I truly really believing this, or am I just telling myself I should believe this? And once you get honest with yourself, you also know what to do. Like, you either need to continue to change your belief system, or you need to accept that this is what you believe and that you can't change your belief system, so that you need to own up to it. And if you haven't marketed yourself enough, and that's again being honest, have I marketed myself enough to have people see me, to have people know me, to be able to grow my audience, to be able to sell my products? Have I sold enough times on social media so that people actually know that I'm selling something? Like, ask these questions to yourself and be honest. And most of the time, you will notice when you're doing that, that the answer is actually no, I haven't. And that's a tough pillow to swallow, but it's the only way that you can start growing and developing yourself. You can keep lying to yourself, you can keep holding yourself back from the truth, but ultimately you won't get any step further if you do that. So be honest. Learn to set boundaries is the next one on my list. And I had a whole conversation with one of my virtual assistants about it the other week, where I think a lot of us tend to be in some way or another a bit of people pleasers, or not so much people pleasers as such, but we want to be there for others, we want to support others, we want to show up for others, and we want to help others ultimately. And I think that's really, really, really great. I'm here because I want to help others. But I've also learned, as someone who is kind of a people pleaser, or was kind of a people pleaser, that the best thing you can do for yourself and for the others is actually having boundaries. And let me explain a little bit why. First and foremost, if you consistently empty your cup because you give the bits to other people, you eventually end up with not having anything to give anymore. It's gone. So then people will suffer because of that. So you might as well say, okay, I'm consistently kind of setting my boundaries so that I can fill up my cup and let it overflow so I have more to give to others. And then the other part is, think about the impact you can make on someone when you're not always there being able to show up for them. Like, I'm sure you've had moments in your life where you had hoped someone would help you, or you had hoped someone would like cheer you on, and maybe they didn't. Maybe they weren't able to show up. Maybe they just didn't show up because to them it wasn't maybe as important as it was for you. And you ended up having to take care of it yourself, or celebrate yourself, or maybe having to figure out how to get it done yourself. And because of that, you got stronger, you got more resilient, and you got better because of you took care of yourself in that instance. So if you consistently take care of others when they're in need, you don't allow them to start showing up for themselves, learn and grow and develop themselves, as when you actually say, I'm sorry, this is my boundary, I can't give you more than this. You need to take care of it yourself for the rest. Then they will be able to think in different ways. They will be asked to do different things. And they ultimately will be asked to take control of their own life and their own outcome. And I really have started to believe that that's, in my opinion, one of the most powerful things you can do. And look, I by no means am saying that you shouldn't be showing up or helping someone when you can. But if someone consistently drains the energy or consistently comes to you asking for money or asking you for help in similar areas, then maybe at some point the best thing you can do is actually setting your boundary and saying, until here and no more. I'm sorry, but you need to take care of it yourself now. I will be here. I will be your mental support. You can always come and talk to me, but you need to take care of this thing yourself. Because it allows people to, like I said, take care of it themselves and to take back some control that they've always been giving away, or taking responsibility that they've never really taken. And as I mentioned in the beginning, when you do that, you will feel more empowered yourself, which will also give you more energy. And when you have more energy, you also have more to give. So no matter if it's friends, family, clients, set your boundary. You're not only doing yourself a really good thing, but you're also most likely will help them. Then the next one is clarity comes from taking action. And I think a lot of us are thinking that clarity comes when we just sit with it and think about it long enough. We're hoping, we're trying to control our mind to give us the answers. And that's not how it works. The best way of finding the answers, there are two things that I'm going to say here, is first and foremost, taking action. No matter how small of an action it is you're taking, take the action. Like, it could be as simple as, okay, I don't know how to figure this out, but I'm just gonna go on Google and type in the question and see if Google comes up with an answer. Right? That's taking action. You're actually doing something to see if it comes from it. Another thing that is kind of taking in here as well is that most of the time when we're seeking clarity, we're trying to distract ourselves with a lot of other things. So we're trying to control getting the clarity to us, and at the same time we're overcomplicating things too much. So I mentioned you could Google, that's an action taking, but if you're constantly Googling and you're not finding the answer, then maybe you're just distracting yourself. And the answer actually lies into you going on a walk without any headphones in and just being in silence. Or you just, if you want to come up with a content piece and you can't find any inspiration, simply just start typing something, no matter what it is. Like, type what comes up in your head. And before you know it, the actual content piece will come to you. I've had this a couple of times with my blog. Like, I would sit down and it would be like, okay, I have so many topics I can write about, but I do not really know which one to pick, which one to choose, or what to even say about this. Like, I'm trying to find that answer. And the best way for me to get to it is simply just sit my ass down and start typing it out, and something will come up along the way. It's the same for this podcast. Like, things are usually coming to me when I just stop distracting myself with music, stop distracting myself with videos, stop distracting myself with social media, and simply just sit myself down and do something. Because ultimately, you already know what you need to do. But we've been so conditioned and we've learned to distract ourselves so much that the answers can't come to us anymore. And once you really start to learn how to be in silence and how to simply just take the action or take one little step towards what you need to do, all of a sudden things will start flowing to you. But the reason for that is simply because you take away the importance of wanting to find and wanting to control to have the inspiration and find the answer. And you're creating a path where the answer flows to you. So action is always the best way of getting clarity finding inspiration and finding the answers to what you need. The other thing that I've always had a belief in, but has come up more and more this year as I was going through certain personal challenges and have seen others go through personal challenges as well, is I truly, truly, truly believe, and you don't have to believe this with me, but that everything happens for a reason. And you won't always see that reason straight away. Most of the time it happens, like you will start to notice that reason a couple of months down the line, or maybe sometimes even years. And you look back and you're like, oh, this is why that happened. But when you get into the awareness of, okay, everything happens for a reason, you are able to also see really difficult situations for a positive thing. And this is really hard to understand, right? How can something that's really negative and that's impacting you really negatively and making you maybe really sad or making you feel just really not great, how can that have a positive impact on you? Like, ultimately, you won't know it until you go through it. But I've seen that almost every negative always has a positive against it. And it's really helped me with my mental health to tell myself that as well. Like, it happens for a reason. I might not know that reason right now, but it will come to me eventually. And I know I will be more resilient and stronger. And there is something that comes out of this that will have made it worthwhile. And it's always been the case for me in every life event that I've went through. No matter how hard they've been, there's always been a reason that has kept me going. And looking back at them, I'm so grateful I went through every single one of them, because ultimately it has made me who I am today. It's brought me to where I am today. And yeah, I can only be very grateful for that. That also leaves me to the next point, which is around, don't let your external circumstances get in the way to where you want to be. And I've done this year. I've let certain external circumstances hold me back from taking certain action, or at moments wanting to give up, or just not doing it at all because there was either a fear around it, or I was telling myself I couldn't because of it. And again, you hear what I'm saying, like I'm talking about because I believed, which is a belief system, or I told myself, which is a story. So it comes back to that whole element of self-awareness. At that point, I was not having necessarily the awareness as such, or even when I did have the awareness, I wasn't able to change it. And that's okay, right? But what I've learned is, because it's a process that you go through, sorry, that's what I meant to say. And sometimes we need a little bit longer to start to realize that we can get out of it or that we can change it. But what I've learned is that if you let external circumstances hold you back from where you want to be, then there is always something that can hold you back. Because that's life. There is always something that you can use as an excuse to not do a certain thing. And when you start doing that, you end up never taking the risk or never doing the thing that you wanted. Because it's so much easier to push it out than to just do it even when it feels uncomfortable. So yeah, just do it. No matter your external circumstances, like, take the risk. And look, be mindful, right? I'm not saying jump into an ice cold ocean if you know you're not going to survive it. Like, be mindful, but also don't let it hold you back from not doing it if you know it's going to be better for you, or if you know it's your dream. And that also brings me to the next one. You see, they're all kind of intertwined. I love that. They're, in a way, everything is connected, intertwined with one another. I talk about this way too often too, but I truly believe that, which it just makes me feel, I don't know, makes me feel relaxed knowing that everything is connected in one way, which means that if you change something in one area, it has a ripple effect on the other areas. And it's not always a linear ripple effect, but knowing that every small little change can ultimately change the bigger picture just makes me, I don't know, makes me feel good. Um, so the other piece of that is that I just mentioned, the uncomfortableness. Like, get comfortable being uncomfortable, because believe me, there is always going to be something happening in your life that is going to feel uncomfortable. Even when you're in a very comfortable situation and you're not even trying to get yourself into an uncomfortable situation, something external might happen that puts you there. And that external can be completely out of your control, right? It might not even be due to your belief systems or your stories that you're telling. It might be because someone else goes through something or does something that then impacts your external life. And the thing is, the more you get into a habit of putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, so that the more you do that self, the more you will start to notice that it starts to feel comfortable, because you will get more resilient the more often you do it. And you will start to feel simply more comfortable because you kind of been through it once and you know, okay, I know that kind of worked out. So ultimately, I can do it again. And then it's making sure you have the belief system, everything always works out for me. If you start believing that, then you will know that you're kind of the cat with the internal lives as such, that you will find your feet again. That even when in the darkest moments, you know you can put yourself out of it. So put yourself in uncomfortable situations so that whenever something does happen that is out of your control and makes you uncomfortable, you have the resilience and the knowing that this will pass too, and that you too can get out of this, that there is a light at the end of the tunnel. So that's that one. I'm just reading of my page right now. I've listed so much. I can't believe I'm already talking for 40 minutes and there's still more to come. So many lessons in a year, right? That's what I mean when I talk about 10 years of therapy within your first business. Like, look, a lot of these things I kind of knew in the back of my mind, or I heard people talking about it, but it wasn't until actually going through all of it that it made sense to me, and that I'm truly a believer, and this is ultimately, honestly, my authentic truth to me right now, and that I'm sharing with you here. So this is a big one too. It doesn't mean because you can't see it in your external world yet that therefore it's not right around the corner. I think, and again, I am definitely at fault of doing this. It's kind of like you have an idea, this is what I want. Maybe you have a goal. I want to earn this amount of money this month or this quarter or within the next year. And then nothing you do seems to be working. And you start to get anxious and you start to get stressed and you start to ask yourself, like, is this really going to work? Which is already wrong, because that means you're not honestly believing in it anymore. And then before you know it, you're there throwing in the towel. And what I've come to learn is, if you have that goal, great, put in the work, do the things. And even if it's not there in your external yet, it doesn't mean it can't be just around the corner. Like, you might wake up one day and get surprised because you get a new client or two that ultimately start seeing you. Like, this world works in weird ways. We can't control everything. So there are things out of our control that can happen that ultimately can change the whole game for you. And that means if you really start to believe in this, that it's just around the corner, then you keep going, right? Why would you throw in the towel if you know it's going to happen tomorrow? And if it doesn't happen tomorrow, who says it doesn't happen the day after? So don't be fooled by thinking that things always need to be visible in the external world for it to happen. Like, it can happen overnight. Honestly, I've seen it with real life experience, and I trust in it completely now. If not today, then maybe tomorrow. Then the next one is, no one will ever understand you the way you can understand yourself. And this goes back into a couple of things. First and foremost, you've probably heard the saying of become your own best friend. And I truly believe this. I think you know yourself, or you can learn to know yourself better than other people do, due to having the awareness, right? So if you dive into that, then you ultimately are automatically becoming your best friend, because you will start to know what you need. You will know what you want. You will know how to get there, because you've built a trust with yourself. And I think that's one of the best gifts you can give yourself. I've learned the hard way, where you have certain expectations from people, or you have certain expectations of just life in general. And you, how am I going to say this? So maybe you have certain expectations from people, and therefore, let's say you've done something that you think is really worth celebrating or being cheered on, and then none of your friends or family do that to you. And you automatically start to doubt, and you're going to be like, oh, okay, maybe this wasn't a good thing. What? Just because you didn't get the validation from someone else? Like, if you feel like celebrating, then celebrate. If it's a good thing to you, then it's a good thing to you. It also means that you no longer are doing things for other people, and you're simply doing them for yourself. Like, there is this one example that I have, I have multiple things, but this was a really clear moment for me, and one of my friends actually pointed it out to me. So a couple of years ago, I had the goal for that year to run a half marathon, and 11 months went by, and by the 12th month, I was like, oh my god, I haven't done this yet. I need to do it this year. I promised myself I can't let myself back. So I scheduled that one in, and it was on a Saturday morning, December month. Everyone is busy. I was living in a different country, and I was going to run that half marathon. Now, if you've ever been to a half marathon or a marathon in general, you tend to see a lot of people cheering on the sidelines, and they're there for the people who are running and helping them to get to the finish line. And I had no one. There was no one there for me. And I realized at that point, and my friend was saying this the other day, she mentioned, because she kind of was planning to come, but life got in the way and she wasn't able to. And she pointed out that I'm running this for myself. I'm not running this for someone else. So it didn't really matter if there was someone there, because ultimately I was the one that needed to cheer me on. It was my goal. And therefore, I shouldn't needed the validation of other people being there on the side of the road to cheer me on. And I'm not saying that you can't have those people. Sure, it's such a nice feeling of having them there, but you can't expect other people to understand what you're doing the same way and have that much value against it the same way as that you have. It's the same for business owners, right? As a business owner, you cannot expect your employees to work just as much as you do as the owner of your business. Most likely don't get paid as much as you do, or even if they do, like, it's your business, not theirs. If you make it a success, like, you're the one that gets the praises for the success, not them. So you can't make it, you can't expect other people to make the things that you find important just as important for them. And therefore, you also can't really expect for them to act in a way that you're expecting or that you would do for them. Because again, it comes back that you're all different people. So learn to be your own cheerleader, learn to be your own best friends, so that in those moments when you need to show up for yourself, that you can, and that you're not getting sad or maybe angry because someone else wasn't able to show up the way you had expected it to be. And that also goes back to, again, you're different people. So even if you would show up that way, doesn't mean that for someone else will. Yeah, so do that. Then everything is possible as long as you believe in it. I think I've mentioned this briefly already throughout my whole conversation so far, but I think the most of what I believe, at least the most important thing to do for yourself is that you, like I mentioned before, have your own pot and believe in that pot. Your pot is not the same. If someone wants to show up on social media 10 times a week, that's theirs. If that doesn't feel right to you and you want to build your business or your life in a different way, then do you. But believe that that's also a possible way of getting where you want to be. It's only possible to the extent that you believe in it. So that. And the last one is make your health the number one priority. Without your health, you don't have anything. Make sure you eat your whole foods, you have some physical exercises or movement, you get enough sleep, you drink your water, you have your social interactions with people. The connection is just as important. Like, connect with people, have healthy relationships, set boundaries, spend time in nature, limit chronic stress. Like, a little bit of stress from now and then is good, but try to not make it chronic, because that's where a lot of diseases happen. But yeah, make your health your number one priority. And with that, I believe, and it's again different for people in different areas. Like, I think it's different for men than it is for women, but that's just my belief system as well, is that make sure you also have like rest moments or moments of relaxation in between to counter that kind of chronic stress. I think most of the time we're not even realizing how much stress we put on our bodies until we start to slow down for a little bit. And again, that awareness piece comes really in hot here too, and is really important. But yeah, I've seen it happening where people from the outside maybe have it all, but then get sick at a really young age, and that's it, right? If you get sick and it limits you from actually enjoying the life or the things that you're having, then what does it really matter? So make health your number one priority, not just for yourself, but if you're building a business, it's the best thing you can do for your business. If you're in a relationship, if you have kids, it's the best you can do for the people around you. So focus on that. And that is the end of my lessons of this year. I'm sure I have a whole lot more, but they will probably come up in 2024 in one of the episodes. But I hope me sharing some of this with you is going to be helpful for you in your journey as well, and will, ultimately give you something to lean on whenever you need to. So with that, I'm hoping you have a lovely end of the year and that you're starting the new year off with a bang. And thank you so much for joining me these last couple of months in this podcast and listening to my episodes. And I cannot wait to see what 2024 has in I don't know the word for it, has in play for us all. So that's it for today. Thank you all. Wrap up another episode on the Stories to Remember podcast. I want to thank you for being a part of our community. It's your support and engagement that keeps me going. would also like to request a small favor. If you found value in this episode and enjoyed our podcast so far, I kindly ask you to subscribe. Your subscription not only means the world to me, but also helps me to expand our reach, connect with more incredible guests, and continue sharing inspiring stories. Furthermore, your engagement and feedback are invaluable to us, so please do share your thoughts on the podcast. For now, once again, thank you so much for tuning in. Stay inspired, stay motivated, and I can't wait to have you with us next time. See you then.